Is Kansas a good basketball team? We discussed that, some fun hypothetical questions. Flory Bidunga back next season, maybe, maybe not, and plenty more on today's episode of Locked On Jayhawks.
You are Locked On Jayhawks, your daily podcast on the Kansas Jayhawks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on? Derek Johnson here at T Johnson Radio. He's Nick Schwerdt, resident ball knower here for Locked On Jayhawks at Nick_Schwerdt on Twitter. You can find us there, and thanks for making Locked On Jayhawks your first listen every day. Thank you to Everydayers catching all the shows. We're free and available anywhere you get your podcast, and find us on YouTube where you can like and subscribe to the show. We're going to get into a very simple question on today's episode. Is Kansas a good basketball team? I think that'll be an interesting discussion. Some fun hypotheticals that we're going to go over for KU Hoops and a little whose stat line is it anyway. Today's episode of the show is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase with Game Time. Okay, so haven't talked in a little bit. KU's been playing a bunch of, night games when we typically record. So very simple question to lead off the show here. Is Kansas good?
That's such an ugly word. It's such a subjective question. What's your definition of good? I think here's really what it comes down to is that a Kansas basketball fan's definition of good is much different than 99% of college basketball fans across the country. So since this is a Kansas basketball show and I'm playing by those rules, I guess the answer would be no. Like good, and that's the irony in this, Derek, is that good, if we're going on this KU basketball scale, good is like, are you going to go to a Final Four? Then you're good. Mm-hmm. Did you make it to the Elite Eight? You were okay, right?
Right.
That's kind of the scale we're operating on. And so like Kansas doesn't feel like a Final Four team to me right now. But I mean, you look at advanced metrics, predictive measures, Ken Pom, like Bart, Torvik, wherever you want to look, they're a top 10 team in the country, right? So there's 350 some odd programs. Being top 10, that's pretty good. So
most other teams would kill for this. Most other teams would kill for this year, right? But you're right. I view it, I judge it from the lens that I think you have to, which is, this is a Kansas podcast. These are Kansas people listening to this show, most assumedly. I think you judge it from the Kansas perspective. What I do think is interesting, like you said, they're ranked 9th on Ken Pom right now. Do you know where the 2022 national championship team was on Ken Pom entering the Big 12 tournament, which is pretty late in the year?
Well, I know they lost back-to-back road games at the end of the year.
Baylor, TCU.
Right. So I'm guessing, and then they won like 2 close games, which if you're going off
TCU and Texas.
Ken Pom, you get added points for margin of victory. I know those were close wins. So I'm going to say like 16th, maybe 13th.
No, they were 10th going into that Texas game, won that. Going to the Big 12 tournament, they were 9th, which is exactly where they are right now. And that team won a title. So if we're judging it based on that,
yeah. Well, and here's the other part too. Even if we're saying, okay, it's different at Kansas, expectations are higher here. At the end of the day, your ability to win games in March and go to a Final Four is based on who else is there. Are there other teams that are going to stand in your way that are better than you, that you just can't line up against and beat? And I would remind anyone who is just Hulk smashing the panic button right now that this is still a team that within the past 5 days, has proven that they can hang with one of the best teams in the country.
Should have.
They beat, they should have won. Should have beaten one of the best teams in the country. They beat Duke earlier in the season. I know it seems like that doesn't matter, and it was a long time ago.
How about that Michigan State win?
It did happen. Michigan State's won like, 1 million games in a row. So I don't care if you think that this is worse than most Kansas teams. That's not really the point. We're not asking, will this go down as one of the best? Well, that 2022 team, like beyond the rankings, did anybody think that was a championship team? Did anybody think that was a team that could reel off 6 straight in March? Of course not.
Especially if you asked them after that Kentucky game, right?
Right. So I think reminding yourself that you don't lock into the other 350 teams in college basketball. You don't. You lock into the Hawks and maybe a few other Big 12 teams. So it's really easy to have this narrow focus on your team. And everything they do is another reason why they can't win it all. Another reason why this isn't a great Kansas team. But, other teams got problems too.
Yeah.
And a lot of them are worse than what KU's dealing with.
Yeah, I think the answer is they are good. Now, if you were to elevate that and say, are they great? No, I don't think that would be the answer to that. But the one thing I see a lot on social media, and I think this is more so just like you're just reacting in the moment. You're just upset. You're right. That happens. I see a lot, and I don't know if you see this a lot too, people saying this team is worse than last year. How did they get worse than last year? I don't think I agree with that. I could maybe buy it if you were saying a fully healthy version of last year, like when they had a fully healthy Kevin and when they had a fully healthy Hunter, but they didn't. And by the end of the year, they didn't. And they didn't have Kevin McCullough. And so I think this team to me is definitely better than last year's team. Do we not remember, they couldn't find a fifth starter, that nobody was giving them anything on the bench? It had 29 bench points against UCF. So, again, is this a great team among Bill Self teams? No, it's not. But, I don't think it's a conversation to me whether it's better than last year's team.
No, it's not. I haven't seen people saying that. I'm kind of surprised. Out of all the opinions that you could have about this team, the one that I wouldn't go so far as to say is that they're worse than they were a year. No, they are better. They are deeper. Nick Timberlake was getting serious run this time of year. You had Hunter Dickinson, you had Kevin McCullough, and then Johnny Furphy. Hey, maybe he'll have a good game once every couple of weeks. But this team's significantly better. I think we just have this narrow focus. We are prisoners of the moment. I can't think of one thing that team was better at than this team.
Yeah. Okay, so if we saw the three big lineup in the UCF game, KJ Adams playing the 3, Flory at the 4, Hunter at the 5, how does that affect this question? If I told you that Kansas is going to start going with that moving forward, that's going to be their new starting lineup, which who knows, it might be, it might not be against Baylor, and that is going to occupy a big chunk of minutes in the rotation for Bill Self because that's just the guys he trusts. Would that change your answer to any of this with thinking if they can be good?
No. The biggest issue I've had with, and this is all Twitter, I don't really hear people saying this when I talk to my friends in the group chat. This is very much like an online thing where one person says something and another person realizes, oh, that's the new thing to say. And then all of a sudden everyone's saying it, but nobody really actually can explain it. All season long, everything has just been, what is Bill doing? I see this on Twitter all the time. What is Bill Self doing? Why isn't this guy playing more? Why isn't that guy playing more? Why is this guy playing so much? What's with these rotations? Why is he screwing around? Let them play through their mistakes. They're just all the cliches that everybody says over and over again. The problem at this point, where you now have, 12 games or something like that left in the season, is that there's no one, no one who's not playing enough. If only Rylan Griffin was playing 26 minutes, how long do we hear that? How long do we hear KJ needs to play less, Rylan needs to play more, AJ needs to play more? Rylan Griffin played 26 minutes versus UCF. How many buckets did he get? 0. I think he hit 5 free throws. But he disappears. AJ Stewart is the opposite of disappear, but I don't think it's any better. It's you notice when AJ's out there, but not always for good reasons. So the idea that I, or frankly, anyone else is going to sit there still after months of this and say that Bill doesn't have the answers for the lineups, but I do. No, you don't, because they've tried them all and varying degrees of success. But it's not like there's this magical lineup that we've seen that we just need to see more of. So at this point, my only hope and wish for this team is that Bill is going to look at a rotation, 5 guys, and then 3 other guys, and say, this is it. This is the lineup. You're getting about this many minutes a night. You're getting this many minutes a night. You'll come in. Somebody gets in foul trouble. You're going to get 7 or 8. That's it. Done. And I don't even care who it is. Just go with something, because you have to, at this point, develop some identity. We thought it was going to be defense like 3 weeks ago. Now all of a sudden we've seen the defense look as bad as it's looked in years. So I don't really know what the identity is, but they got to figure it out. And you're not going to figure it out doing what you did against UCF, which is throwing the kitchen sink at it. I think I saw Kevin Flaherty tweet that they had 11 different lineups in the first half. Maybe it's because DeJuan's out. Maybe it's because they are trying to whittle it down, but you're not learning anything by going with this lineup for 2 minutes, going with this other lineup for the next 2 minutes. I know everybody's saying, yeah, whittle it down, but whittle it down to the guys I want to play. If you're saying that, I have to assume that you're one of the people who doesn't want to see KJ Adams play anymore. So you have two options: either accept that he's going to play or stop watching this team. Because I promise you, he's going to play. He may play at the 4. He may play at the 3. He's going to play. And the guys you want to play, Rylan, AJ, I hate to break it to you, it's not working out for whatever reason. But this is the way it's going to go. So if it's 3 bigs, I know this is a long answer, I'm fine with it. Just give me something night in, night out that I know I can expect to see from this team.
All right, let's get to some fun hypotheticals, including over Flory Bidunga. This is Locked on Jayhawks. Episode of the show is brought to you by Game Time, and this year Game Time makes it even easier to create those unforgettable moments with their new feature, Game Time Picks. It filters out the fluff and shows you only the best deals on great seats so you can focus on what matters, which is being at the game. I love Game Time. You can see the sea views of what you're getting into, right? Maybe you're going on the road. Maybe you're going to a venue that you've never been before. And this applies for sports, comedy, concerts, theater. And you're like, I have no idea how good these seats are. Well, you can see the seat views in the app, which just makes it awesome. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off on your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege, LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, thanks for joining us here on Locked on Jayhawks, and we'll have a KU Baylor preview coming at you on Friday. All right, some dumb KU basketball hypotheticals. Two-part question here. Flory Bidunga, are you getting to a point where you would be worried that he's going to come back for another year? And the dumb hypothetical part of this, would you take Kansas losing every game the rest of the season if it meant you get 4 years of Flory?
No. To your second question, absolutely not. Do you realize there's still, if they lost every game in the regular season, what would their record
would burn down?
Do you have their current record? It's 15 and 5,
what,
right?
15? 14, 15?
15 and 5, and I think they have...
So I think they have 10...
13... What is it, just 10 games left in the regular season?
No, 11 in the regular season and then Big 12 tournament. So if they lost every game remaining, they'd be 15 and 17.
Yeah, they're not getting into the tournament.
No, so the tournament streak would end.
But it's fun in a hypothetical. We can talk about
in year
things.
4? How good would that be?
Yeah, but who would the coach be? Because if they lose out, Bill's not coming back. No way.
You just be like, I'm out.
Well, no, because you have to think about realistically what would come about if a team not just missed the tournament, but to be in the top 10 and then lose for a straight month. It would be like, oh, he's totally lost it. He lost the locker room. We've never seen this before. Things weren't going great before the losing streak. So maybe this dude's just checked out. Maybe he doesn't have it anymore. He can't adapt. You get fired. He would either get fired or it would be a mutual parting. No, dude. You think we'd all just be like, oh, okay, whatever. Didn't get him next time. You really think that's what KU fans would be thinking?
No, but John Calipari had that 9-win season. Okay, what if I change it? What if I said Kansas loses in the first round, but you get Flory for 3 years? Would you take that?
Oh, yeah, I would take that. I would take that deal.
Do you think he'll be back next year?
But then I have to imagine, Derek, if I get him for 4 years, does that mean he's not good? Because at this point, the only thing the guys, with the exception of Hunter Dickinson, if a guy's sticking around for 4 years and he's that athletic, it's like, what happened?
He pulls an Eric Chenoweth. He just gets, worse as the seasons go.
Follows Dave Matthews Band around the country for an entire summer. That's what Eric Chenoweth did, by the way. Am I worried that he's going to go pro? I don't think so. I mean, he's basically just getting rebounds and dunks. Like, it's not high-level basketball. It's super explosive. It's athletic. I think he shows good characteristics. Like, fairly high basketball IQ, I think, for a freshman big. A lot of times they look like this, baby deer kind of skating all over the place. The moments never really looked too big for him, and there really haven't been a ton of moments where you say, he's so raw. He is, but it's not in a way that's screwing the team over. It's just that he knows what he does well, and he does it pretty well. I don't know where the mock drafts have him. I would imagine like maybe late first round, but I don't see it quite yet because the bag doesn't seem to be very deep for Flory. He's not doing a bunch of different things.
But the things he does, boy, does he do them. He does them very, very well, which is, I guess, a little bit like Johnny Furphy in a way. I mean, obviously very different positions and stuff, but it's like Furphy didn't do much, but like he hit threes pretty well, and he was an athlete in transition. Okay, next dumb hypothetical here. If you could mush two of the current KU players together to make one super player, who would you go with?
Wow, that's a great question.
So you can merge like whatever attributes you want from the two players, right? So like I could do DeJuan Harris's passing and I don't know, whatever floater game with KJ Adams because he's taking
I got
shots.
it.
I don't know.
I got it.
Rylan Griffin and AJ Storr?
No.
And three-point shooter?
No, better.
Double the doghouse?
Better. Rylan Griffin and Diggy Coit. Give me a shooter who wants to launch 10, 15 times a game. Like Diggy, he doesn't give a, I don't know if I can cuss on him. He doesn't care. Like he's out there just like, yo, I'm Dame Lillard. Oh, the 5 feet behind the arc, 10 seconds left on the clock. Yopper. Rylan's like, I'm going to play 26 minutes. I may shoot it twice. You think Diggy Coit would ever log 26 minutes and take 2 shots? Hell no.
I mean, now you're giving Rylan's what, 6'5", 6'6"? You're giving that to Diggy Coit? Like, that's the big thing against Diggy Coit. He's too small. Well, now if he's 6'6".
Yeah, now you have a 6'6", dude. I think their shooting abilities are about the same. Mm-hmm. But you're giving a guy who doesn't give it. He don't care.
What if you combine Flory with Coit? David Coit's shooting, Flory Bidunga's size? Is that even, like, possible to think of? Is that just
so you're
Kevin
telling
Durant?
me Flory, I've got a 6'10" dude who's just floating on the perimeter jacking threes? I'm like, hey man, you
Phil Self's like, go to the bench. You ain't doing that here.
So no more Flory dunks. You know, that's the problem. You can't have it both ways. A guy who wants to shoot 33s and a dude who wants to dunk everything.
All right, last one here. You get to give one player on this team unlimited eligibility. They can play till their legs fall off or whenever they want to retire. But if they go to the NBA, then they're just gone. So, like, if they're good enough at some point to go to the NBA, they're gone. So you want somebody who is going to have to use the unlimited eligibility, but also, I don't know, maybe you do, maybe you don't.
Because they would never go to the NBA, basically. They're never.
Well, it's like in Flory Bidunga's case, if you gave him the unlimited eligibility, chances are in a couple years he's going to go to the NBA, and gifting that to him is not going to give you an advantage long term.
I think the answer is Zeke, right?
That's a good one.
Because I don't think Zeke is on the NBA radar. He's not as explosive athlete.
And also you think about it, if in this world of unlimited eligibility, you have a 38-year-old Zeke Mayo, he might not be playing high minutes every night, but he can still come in and hit a shot for you.
Yeah, exactly. Like he's the perfect college basketball player, and he already plays at such a high level. It's the perfect medium between really good college player, probably never going to be an NBA player. But if you just told me every single year I had a Zeke Mayo, and going back in history, every single Kansas team over the past 10, 15 years, he may not start. He may not be averaging 17 a game on all those teams, but he's getting run. This Zeke Mayo is getting run on every Kansas team in the Bill Self era. So if you could just lock me in with that for the next 10 years, I'd love it.
Imagine if you had Zeke Mayo or like in the Isaiah Moss role on the 2020 team, and you had Zeke and Devon Dot. That would have been fun.
And if you give me Zeke the next 10 years, he's going to enter his basketball prime here in like
He's
6
winning
years?
National Player of the Year one of those years, right?
No, I think two.
Okay.
I set the over under 1.5, and I'm taking the over that like he gets hot for a couple years. He's 6 years older than everybody else.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, for sure.
Perfect. All right, let's finish up. Little whose stat line is it anyway? Thanks for joining us here on Locked On Jayhawks. Again, we'll have a KU Baylor preview tomorrow. KU Baylor recap coming at you on Saturday on the show. All right, little whose stat line is it anyway? I need you to guess this player. These are going to be conference-only numbers, so only in the Big 12 games. This player leads Kansas with 3.1 mid-range attempts per game, so mid-range 2 attempts per game, leading the team. They have 0 made three-pointers in Big 12 play. And then in combined at the rim plus 3-point shooting effective field goal percentage, they're in the 47th percentile nationally. So basically average at those shooting. Which player am I referring to?
So the thing that's hanging me up is no made threes.
Mm-hmm.
But
they have shot them.
They have, okay. That was
Yes.
kind of my question. I'm like, well, is it Flory? Like, is it KJ? Well, it wouldn't be Flory because his numbers are so good at there. I don't think KJ's taking a 3, but it would be like you to pick KJ because he's taking
Like a full court shot was in there.
Yeah, like at the buzzer. You'd be like, well, he took one. Gosh, who has not made a 3? Is it Hunter?
It is Hunter Dickinson. So
Lord.
like, okay, I should also add in defensive rating, in on-off defensive rating in conference play, he ranks in the 2nd percentile nationally right now. Now, that is a little bit unfair to him after the game that was the UCF game where just everybody was struggling, and that lowered his rating a good amount. But I don't know. It's really weird. So if you're looking at Hunter Dickinson's game logs so far in Big 12 play, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 games of the 9 that KU has played where he's even shot 50% or better from the floor. And I know that, the media reaction would be, okay, well, is KJ Adams playing next to him? Is that clogging up the paint? Is that creating a situation where, he just doesn't have as much room to operate? But that can't be an excuse anymore because KJ was out for a certain amount of games. So, like, I guess, I don't know. Question here is there something going on with Hunter?
Okay, you've been cutting in and out. I think my internet connection's spotty, so I didn't hear anything other than the very last thing you said. Is something going on with Hunter?
Yeah. Well, that's basically the gist of it. I just he's still producing, he's still putting up points and rebounds, but the efficiency's not there. I don't know. Like I want, did the Duke game like spook him in some weird way? I just don't know. I feel like he is still, like I said, producing, but it hasn't been as productive as last year.
Yeah, I really don't know what to make because even if you want to blame it on the lack of spacing and how hard it is for him to operate down low, it's not any worse than it was last year when, you're right, he was better. And sometimes I just wonder if it's like, is he just not making as many shots? Like, is it that simple? Is there really nothing to it? And he's just not as efficient as he was a season ago? Because in terms of the opportunities that are presented, it's exactly the same, if not better. Like, you can shoot a little bit more. They can space the floor a little bit more. But you've also got, another year now of seeing what it looks like to play against Kansas. Maybe the book's out. Like, teams know, hey, if it's going to be 2 bigs or if it's going to be Hunter and KJ, then we know how to defend that. I would say, though, like, Hunter still has the element of his bad is not that bad and his okay is actually good. Like, you look at the games where he doesn't feel like he played great, and then you look at the box score and you're like, he still had 16 and 10. We do grade him on a little bit of a curve, but you're right. It just looks clunkier than it did a season ago.
But I don't know. Maybe that's a path for KU being better. Like, as weird as this season has been, as much as they haven't felt like they've figured out the rotations and everything, what if just everything stays the same, but Hunter does get back to the level he was playing last year? Like, I don't know. Maybe that is the difference of just being a top 5 team versus top 12 team or whatever they are right now.
Yeah, because I think if you just look at like Big 12 play, he's still and has been one of the 5, 6 best players in conference play. Zeke has been probably one of the top 10 players in conference play. And you may even have Zeke ahead of Hunter. I probably would. But yeah, if one of those guys just became the best player in the Big 12, not one of the best, but the best, one of those guys, their efficiency goes up. You go from averaging 17 points a game in conference play to 21 points a game. Like, yeah, that will have a pretty sizable impact on the rest of the season.
He's Nick Schwerdt, ball knower at Nick_Schwerdt. Where can you find some of your stuff going on right now?
The show is Could Be Wrong. You can check it out on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts.
And I'm Derek Johnson at D Johnson Radio. This has been Locked On Jayhawks. Thanks for joining us. Again, you can find this show anywhere you get your podcasts and YouTube as well. And we'll see you next time. KU Baylor preview coming out on Friday. See you then with LOJ.